Alright, Chris, sorry about that distraction. Right, so next you wrote lights. What did you notice about the lights?
Well, I noticed that all the light fittings are sort of like hanging loose because obviously the ceiling's been taken down.
Yeah.
And you've got like the wiring that goes into the light fittings dangling down.
Okay.
So the lights were showing like bare.
Yeah.
So it looked a bit sort of like ugly rather than, you know, nice and flush. And that.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. A lot of them did look a bit rough. But one thing I did notice was the fluorescent tubes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That light, that was the one we put up, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That light actually was still there. So I said to the builder, I said, how did you manage to take the ceiling down without taking that light down? Yeah. He goes, he didn't. He took it down and then put it back up again.
Oh, right.
So you see, some builders have a little bit of a clue. Yeah. He knew enough to take the light down, so he didn't get an electric shock while he was working around it. And then he also was clever enough to put it back up. So he's not totally thick, which is good. But it's also, what I'm saying is, not all builders know how to do that. Yeah. So, alright. Next thing, switches. What did you notice about the switches?
Switches on the wall, you know, there was the actual partition of the switch, the actual front cover of the switch wasn't on. So a lot of them were just loose wire hanging off.
Oh, right, yeah, that's, yeah. Some of them were just hanging off a real... You could get an electric shock off them, yeah, if you were not careful. Joists.
Yeah, joists I looked at, obviously the ceilings. And I'll quickly show you in a minute what I mean.
Okay.
The joists are the bits like that.
I know what you mean, yeah. So what about them? That they'd been drilled through?
Well, yeah, some of them have been drilled through, but obviously that's the choice is obviously the main part of the building, when the structure of the building, isn't it? When you come before you put the ceiling on.
Yeah.
And that is obviously what we was talking about the other week, when you was to drill a hole.
Yeah.
If you was to make a nice new light fitting in the centre of a room or something like that.
Yeah, heavy one.
That's going to be like quite heavy.
Yeah.
You would drill. Would you drill up to the joist, or would you drill down?
In normal situations, you'd drill down because
so you'll get into
you wouldn't have access. Yeah.
Because obviously, because you'll have access from the top.
Yeah.
Because you'll be able to visualise.
Again, not always. Like that friend of yours, who had a flat roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't get into a flat roof, so you'd have no choice but to go up through the ceiling.
But then again, you need to know where the joists are, don't you, or not?
You do, which is why you've got that tester that I gave you, the Bosch tester, which tells you where the joists are. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not perfect. It won't always tell you right, but you know, it gives you an indication.
And obviously, the joists are only sort of like that thick, isn't they?
Yeah.
So if you you know, you're going to have to identify where to drill that into that.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just trial and error. Sometimes you just drill a hole up. If you hit a joist, then bad luck. If you haven't hit a joist, then you can put your finger in the hole, feel around, see if there's anything. If you touch a joist, you know not to drill there.
Once you've made that hole though, in someone's house, and you haven't drilled into those joists,
then
you're fucked, ain't you?
Okay, no, the other way around. If you do hit a joist, you're fucked because you didn't. Normally you want to put a cable through, yeah. So normally if you hit a joist, that's a bad thing, yeah.
Because the light's going into that joist, isn't it?
Okay, if it's a heavy, if it's a heavy light, and you're right, you do want a joist, but you still need a cable to come through. Right. But anyway, the point is, your point is, if you damage a customer's ceiling, you have to make it good, yeah. Which is why you just want it to be a nice small hole, and hopefully, if you're lucky, there's a white ceiling. So all you need to do is put a bit of white filler in there, and on a ceiling of this size, you're not gonna notice a tiny little white hole, yeah. Yeah. Cool. Next thing, wall partition. What have you noticed today?
I noticed that on the brickwork's been taken right back to like the walls, so the walls are like flush.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously I don't know what they call it. The guys come round and
rendering,
and
plastering the walls.
Over the brickwork.
Yeah.
But once you've taken the plaster down, that goes onto the brick wall. All you've got basically then is just the brickwork from the build of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite interesting.
It is, yeah. I like that as well.
That's the structure of
it's real naked. That's about as naked as you can get. You start taking those bricks away, the house is going to fall down. So really,
So that's basically how it starts with the bricks, and then you put the over.
Yeah, the render. Yeah.
Is that what they call it, rendering?
Yeah, yeah. Nice one, man. Next thing was, yeah, junction box. Junction box for cables. So what's special about
I saw quite a few of them up in the ceiling.
that?
That some of them are put into like little round boxes
Yeah,
that join into the boxes.
yeah.
I called them junction boxes because that's all I know them.
Yeah, that's good. That's what they are, yeah.
And that's obviously to make it a bit tidy,
Yeah,
so they're not all hanging down, because obviously one end's going into the junction box and the other end's going into the junction box as well, because they're joining the cables together.
yeah.
But yeah, I noticed that there was quite a few of them in there.
I noticed them too, and I had a laugh because some of them are dodgy as fuck, yeah. Some of them, he's terminated the earth outside the junction box, because he obviously bought a junction box without enough terminals.
When you do a junction box, is that sort of like equivalent to like what we've done in the past with a fuse connector?
Yeah, connector block. Yeah.
Connector block.
Connector
but
block.
obviously smaller. Yeah.
Yeah, connector block was normally smaller. I mean, junction box is normally bigger.
For purely the copper wire.
Yeah, yeah.
The actual junction box is actually for the actual PVC wire that goes in it.
Yeah.
And you can get 2 or 3 layers.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea with the junction box is if you put that junction box, let's say, on that table, and you put your cables into it, and you terminated the cables, and then you put the cover on the junction box, a little kid could come up and touch it and not get an electric shock, because there is no exposed metal. It's all plastic, all covered. The connector box you're talking about, if a kid came up to it, could put his finger in a shock and get an electric shock. So those connector blocks, whenever you put them anywhere, you're going to have to protect them somehow. So whether that's protected by, you know, the fact that they're hidden behind a wall, you know, you're not going to get a kid punching a hole through a wall and touching the electrics, yeah? Or whether they're enclosed in a plastic box, or they'll have to be protected somehow. I mean, at the absolute minimum, this won't be according to the regs, but just in terms of protecting people, the absolute minimum you'd do is wrap some insulation tape around it, just so people can't get a shock when they touch it. Yeah. I mean, I'd never tell you to do that, but it does get done.
Wrapped it around the cable, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had the wire exposed.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, as professionals, we can work around live electrics. Yeah, we know where they are, we know how to avoid them. But a kid doesn't understand that at all. They just go and touch it. Yeah. So that's why you have to protect it.
Getting back to that bit where you wrap the wire around.
Yeah.
Obviously, it all depends, and obviously you want to wrap the wire around the live one, really. Obviously, not the earth or the neutral, because it doesn't matter if you touch the neutral.
No, yeah, I mean it does. You'd still try and protect all three, but okay.
You would wrap it round identically with the same colour, if you can get it.
Yeah.
Brown or red or blue.
Yeah.
Tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you're right. If you had the option, you'd always try and mimic the colour. So if you were wrapping onto blue, yeah, if you were wrapping onto blue, you'd use blue. But sometimes it's just not practical. You don't have it. It would be better to protect the cable with any colour than no colour. Yeah. And sometimes what I've done in the past is when I've not been able to identify which is a live, which is a neutral, which is an earth, I've wrapped them all up in red or brown tape to just make anyone aware who comes there that could be live. Now the fact is it may not be, it may be neutral, it may be earth. Yeah, but at least it's given a warning that be careful because this might have electric current in it. Yeah. 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 Be careful because the world is bigger than the UK and Europe. There are places in the world that they use other cable colours. Sometimes you get something made in China.
Australia, for example.
Yeah, I think Australia is the same as us.
Because I spoke to John about it the other week, and he said it's exactly the same there than what it is here.
Yeah.
He reckons.
Yeah, China, the biggest manufacturer in the world now. I took apart one of their bits of kit the other day, and I discovered that their live is white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the actual insulated cable on it?
Yeah.
The copper.
Yeah.
White. Well, that'd be good. That'd be good, isn't it? In the way that they had it over here, because white is pure, isn't it?
Yeah, well done. That's exactly what it was.
And I'd say that because white is pure colour, I would, identify that as a really good live.
Yeah.
So their common sense is a lot better than ours anyway, and that's probably why everything's made in China and ain't made in England.
Yeah, funny you should say that, because I spoke to an American about the same thing, and he explained that white cable is hot. It's white hot cable, so that's how they remember it.
Yeah.